What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony EGD coming at you with my review of AEW Fight Forever. Now, right off the bat, you should know that I got a review copy of AEW Fight Forever. I did not pay the $59.99 retail price for the game. Now, I did get it while I was on vacation, so I didn't get a chance to sink my teeth too deep into it when I made my first impressions video. But now I had the chance to sit down, play it at length, and I got a lot of thoughts. Now, first off, let me say that the game is pretty Spartan when it comes to content. There's only 35 male wrestlers and 12 female wrestlers unlocked when you start up the game. When you boot up the game, that's all you got is 47 wrestlers. Now, they can compete against each other. You can have males fighting females, so that does kind of alleviate the problem a little bit. There are 4 male wrestlers you can unlock: Cody Rhodes, Paul White, Brody Lee, and Owen Hart. And there's 1 female wrestler, Aubrey Edwards. So that does add a little bit to the roster. You get 56 total wrestlers. Now, Cody Rhodes, you can just buy him right off jump. Same thing with Aubrey Edwards. Paul White, Brody Lee, they got to be unlocked during Road to Elite mode. You have to finish specific routes in a specific way in order to get the option to unlock these wrestlers. Owen Hart, you have to win, I believe it's 100 exhibition matches in order to unlock him. And currently, right now, the FTR DLC is available for $11.99, and the Matt Hardy DLC, which gives you 2 versions of Matt Hardy, that's $4.99. Unless you got a pre-order copy of the game, you got that free. So right now, 56 total wrestlers available right now. If we compare that to the WWE game, there's 53 female wrestlers available right now in the game. We total all the female and male wrestlers that are just unique. In other words, we're not going, the multiple versions of John Cena. We're just counting him once. There's 178 wrestlers in the game. If we count all the versions of the wrestlers and the DLC and everything available right now, 249 wrestlers in the WWE game. Now, there are 2 more DLCs planned for AEW. I'm assuming they're going to be also $11.99 like the FTR DLC. You're going to get the Bunny and Keith Lee in one, and Hook and Danhausen in the other. So that's going to bring the total up to about 60 wrestlers with all the planned DLC. We don't know if there's going to be more DLC down the road, if they're going to add wrestlers for free. But that's what we're getting right now. And we're going to have 60 wrestlers for all the planned DLC. Now, you got all your big names. You got your Chris Jerichos, your CM Punks, Orange Cassidy, MJF, Kenny Omega. They're all in the game. There are a few people who probably should be in the game, like FTR probably should have been in the game, not DLC. But, you get most of the big AEW stars right off the jump. However, there's only 4 actual tag teams in the game. Now, if you go to the create a tag team option and go to the set entrance, you'll find that there's actually several entrances of tag teams that are not in the game, but they are named. And they are named entrances. They're not generic entrances where you're like, oh, I know this entrance really belongs to LOD, or I know this is really, the Nation of Domination, or the NWO entrance. They're just calling it generic entrance 3. No, these are actual named entrances. We got Diamante and Ivelisse, Killian King and Savannah Evans. So 2 female tag teams with entrances in the entrance, but not actually in the game. Then Matt and Mike Seidel, Private Party, Santana and Ortiz, SoCal Uncensored, and Varsity Blondes all have entrances, but they're not in the game, which is really weird. I don't know if this was planned DLC, if these were wrestlers that were taken out of the game before the game was actually finished. Maybe these were actually supposed to say generic tag team entrances and someone screwed up. Who knows, but they are named in the creating tag team entrance portion. Now, speaking of creating wrestlers, you can create your own wrestler in this game. However, the creation suite is pretty Spartan. It doesn't have as many options as the WWE game, which is probably the thing we're going to compare this game to the most. So forgive me, but that is the competition, both in the video game sphere and in the wrestling sphere, right? So let's compare the two. You have a lot less options as far as faces, hairstyles, clothing, gestures, all that stuff. There are some unlockables. There are more options for creating arenas than in the WWE game. So there's that. If you're into creating an arena, you can set different props around the ring and stuff. Different props around the entrance ways. You can change the style of mat. You can change the ring ropes, the corner pads, the entrance ramp. There's a lot of options as far as creating the arena that WWE games don't have as many. But as far as the wrestlers go, the options for creating a wrestler are a lot less here in AEW. Personally, it doesn't matter to me. You know, a generic create a wrestler is fine for me. I really don't get deep into creating a wrestler and trying to do all the little things to make somebody who actually exists in real life, because that's just not the way I play games. But if that's you, if you're really into the creation suites and like the WWE games or even in the Street Fighter games, you're going to find there's a lot less options here for you. That said, you should know that your stats, they all start at the basic level when you create a new wrestler, and the only way to improve them is to go through the Road to Elite mode. But once you do that, your stats are set. You cannot change them afterwards, so plan wisely, plan wisely. And speaking of stats, another way that the game stumbles is that their AEW wrestlers, they can't have their stats changed. You can't make somebody stronger. You can't say, you know what, I think Chris Jericho should have stronger moves, or I want to give him 2 or 3 more finishers or another signature. You can't do that. All their stats are set. This leads to some really crazy discrepancies between wrestlers. Kenny Omega is the highest rated wrestler, which is kind of funny considering he was hands-on with this game. I think he was a executive producer for the game. He gets 80 out of 100 stat skills, 9 out of 18 action skills, and 23 out of 35 passive skills. Now the stat skills are things like the amount of finishers you get, how strong the finishers are, the amount of signatures, how strong they are, how strong your punches, your kicks, things like that. A lot of Kenny's numbers come from the fact that he has 5 finishers, 4 signatures. 3 of his finishers are all rated 5 out of 5. And the other 2 are 4 out of 5. His 4 signatures are all 4 out of 5, I believe. So he is by far and away the strongest wrestler in the game. Now the action skills are different things, like the ability to kip up, the ability to dive over the top rope, and to do desperation moves, to attack before the bell. So he has 23 different action skills. Now this is where things really start to crumble as far as AEW goes, because you can't change these either, right? None of these can be changed. That means wrestlers who do not have the ability to dive over the top rope, you can't give it to them. Like, you're like, hey, you know what? I really want Brian Cage to be able to kip up, or I really, I want to see Paul White put his hands in his pockets like Orange Cassidy. You can't do that. You can't, there's no option for you to be able to make that happen. Whereas in the WWE game, you can change the stats of the wrestlers. You can change their abilities, different properties. Wrestlers who traditionally couldn't slingshot off the ropes and do various moves, you can give that to them in WWE games. Here you can't do that. What they get is what they get. Passive skills are things that help your momentum build. You get better for the first attack, better for taunting, for striking, for different things. So again, this really helps you control the match, helps you get your signatures and your finishers unlocked faster. So Kenny Omega has 23 of these. Now if we look at the lowest rated wrestler, male wrestler, Chuck Taylor, he only has 37 out of 100 stat skills, 6 out of 18 action skills, and only a meager 8 out of 35 passive. And poor Chuck, 3 of his passive skills all involve tag team wrestling. So those don't even factor into single competition. So, a Kenny Omega Chuck Taylor match in the game, it's going to be very lopsided. Now, sure, you might say, oh, well, that's realistic. Kenny Omega, he's a main eventer. Chuck Taylor's not on his level. I get that, but when we're talking wrestling games, you should be able to at least for pick up and play, which is what this is supposed to be, right? You should skill should factor in a lot more than these lopsided stats. Now, the highest rated female wrestlers are Britt Baker and Rio. They both got 55 out of 100 stat skills. However, Britt has 7 out of 18 action and 16 35 passive, whereas Rio only got 4 out of 18 action and 12 out of 35 passive. The lowest rated wrestler in the game, Abaddon, only has 33 stat skills, 3 out of 18 action, and 5 out of 35 passive. So you could have Kenny Omega fighting Abaddon, and it'll be the most lopsided match in AEW Fight Forever. Now again, this is not a huge deal, but it is important to note that certain things are not going to be available to certain wrestlers, certain moves, amount of finishers. You can't give CM Punk, for example, a second finisher or a second signature. He's got 1 and 1, and that's it. That's all he's ever going to have. You can change the moves, but you can't give them the additional signatures, the additional skills, which I think really hurts the game, because it is pretty fun gameplay. And that is really what matters, right? The gameplay. Is the gameplay fun? And the wrestling is fun. It's fast-paced. It's what you expect. These are the guys who did WWE No Mercy for the Nintendo 64. So, that is the exact style of game they were going for. And it does capture that feel very well. Like I said, I would have liked to have seen the ability to change action and passive skills. I understand stats probably have to stay pretty consistent because, a guy like Sting is probably going to be rated higher than Chuck Taylor. We get those things in the WWE games. But things like the ability to kip up, put your hands in your pockets, attack before the bell. I think it would have been nice to be able to turn those on and off for various wrestlers whenever you so choose. At least for the offline mode, right? I understand maybe for the online mode you had to keep things at default. Now there are mini games in this game. You get 3 off the bat, and you can unlock more as you go through the road to the elite mode, play them, and then finish the mode. There is not a guarantee that you're going to get one unlocked, but as you play it and beat it with more AEW wrestlers, more will unlock. So it'll be a while, but you'll get it. Now, Road to Elite mode is supposed to represent 1 year's worth of AEW. However, you only go through 4 pay-per-views, so it's like 4 months. They say it's 1 year, but it's only 4 months. And nothing is personalized. So if you're playing it as Brian Cage or Kenny Omega or Sting or Tay Mello, you're going to get essentially the exact same mode, the exact same story, the exact same lines. There will be slight differences here and there, but nothing too dramatic. You're not going to get any special ending for each character. So, it is good. Like the first time you go through, you're like, oh yeah, this is fun, this is cool. You're reading the lines, but as you play it over and over again, you're like, oh man, this is boring. You end up just skipping. Thankfully, you can skip dialogue, so there's that. I'm playing it as the AEW roster members and not your custom wrestler. It does make it a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about getting the skill points and doing things like that. You could just focus on unlocking the snapshots, doing the extra matches, playing the mini games, things like that. There is a nice variety of match options in the game. You get your single matches, your tag teams, your exploding barbed wires. Oddly enough, there is no cage match in the game as of right now. That's weird. It does not have the amount of match varieties as the WWE game again, but there is enough here for you to have fun. Ultimately, though, this game is more of a co-op game than a single-player game, in my opinion. It's going to be a lot more fun if you have someone to play with, whether it's online or local co-op. Playing it single-player, it's good for a little while, but if you're not a huge AEW fan, if you're not a mark, if you're just looking for a fun wrestling game, it's going to get pretty boring pretty fast. At least it did for me, like I said. I'm not a big AEW fan. I do like wrestling, but the lack of wrestlers, the small roster, smaller match types, it really made things get old really quick. Maybe I just played it too much because, you know, I was trying to review it, so I was probably playing it a lot more than a normal person might have played it. But it did kind of get on my nerves a little bit. Overall, I will say it is a fun game. If you are an AEW fan, you're going to love this. If you're a wrestling fan, you're gonna like it. There are a few things that, you know, kind of bug me. Having to mash the buttons to get out of a pin. Having to mash things to get out of submission. Not knowing if your mashing is actually doing anything. Being able to get your signature over and over and over again is fun, but also frustrating when it's happening to you, right? If you're a fan of the WWE No Mercy game, you're going to love this one. You never played it, you're not going to have any nostalgia, and this is probably going to feel dated to you. If you're used to playing the WWE games, this is going to feel weird. Overall, great first effort from the AEW crew. However, at $59.99, I just can't recommend it. And with the DLC being $11.99 for 2 wrestlers and 2 mini games, I would say this is a pass for me. If you can catch it on sale, pick this one up. Sure, like I said, if you're a huge AEW mark, pick this one up. But if you're just looking for a fun wrestling game, like I said, wait for it to go on sale or try the WWE game. It's not perfect, but the amount of wrestlers you get is substantially more. The amount of match types, the creation suite. Yeah, I know the AEW fans are going to be mad at me for saying that, but those are my thoughts. Those are my feelings. Let me know, have you picked up this game? Do you like it? Are you playing it? What system are you playing it on? Am I wrong about what I've said in my assessment of the game? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, as always, love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this bitch.